This week's channeled message from Isla, the mother of creation, is a good one. It's talking about how, as we are moving into this next state of consciousness, we're going to go through a period of overlap where the old reality and the new reality are co-present. And she's giving us some ideas about what that's going to be like and ways that we can sail through it. So, welcome back to my channel. I am so glad you were here. Thank you so much for joining me. And for anyone who's new, welcome. My name is Ann Tucker. I'm a trance channel. I go into a deep meditative state or trance, and from that trance state, I connect with the angelic realm. I connect with the mother of creation, as well as Yeshua and others. And when I do, I bring through messages, I bring through healing and all kinds of cool information that I share here with you guys on YouTube. So this week's message, as I was saying, is it's a beautiful one to help give us guidance as we are stepping into this period of overlap. So the way that I'll share it is, first I'll share the original channeling, which I did actually did it earlier this week because I was on a trip this week. So I did it, I think, on Tuesday or Monday. And then afterwards, we will break it down. And the breakdown is actually really, really helpful. It's a great time to actually integrate the message. It can be sometimes hard to follow her, this is Isla, as she's speaking, because you're receiving the vibrations, you're feeling the frequencies, and it kind of puts you in your right brain, and it makes it harder to hold on to the words. And in the breakdown, we just get so much more out of it. So I hope you'll stick around for that part. So, and speaking of how I channel, many of you know me as a channel of messages, and I share them here. As you know, you receive them every Friday. But many of you may not know that my primary reason for being is I'm a healer. That is, the channeling is a piece of it, but the healing is really where it's my joy, it's my passion, it's my real purpose for being here. And I do healing in a bunch of different ways. But one of the ways I want to share with you is a program called Peace Bathing. It's coming up. We do it once a month, and our session for the month is coming up this Sunday. And Peace Bathing, I call it Peace Bathing because it's with the angels. And the way that it works is we meet together on Zoom. We go into a meditation, and while I'm in trance, and the angels come in and they guide you frequently up into the vibration or frequency of peace, because it's easier for them to work on your energy when you're in that really open and receptive state. But the sessions change every single time, and they are like a bellwether for what's coming for the upcoming month. So we have this session together that we do. It's on upcoming Sundays when we're going to have it. And then you are meant to use that session as often as you need it for the remainder of the month. And so the idea is it becomes part of your regular healing practice, that as you go out into the world, the school of earth, and you are triggered and you are shown where you are bothered by anything, anytime you feel anything other than awesome, you bring that feeling or that idea, that memory home with you, and you take it into your session, into your peace bathing session. And when you do, every single time you do that recording, it opens up a connection between you and the angels, and they will come help you to move through it. So it's an incredible healing tool. So if you do not yet have a regular healing practice, this is a very affordable and extremely effective way to have one. Your experience of peace bathing, people experience all kinds of amazing things. Lots of people have physical experiences of the angels where they see them, feel them. They feel them sometimes as a touch or as cold as goosebumps, all kinds of things, or have amazing visions that come in. We do have all different types of healing that occurs because of these sessions. But I think the coolest thing about it is that, like I said, that you can use it on your journey, that it becomes a tool to help you. So if you're feeling bad, you don't have to stay feeling bad. You can bring that feeling into the session, and the angels will help you through it. So it's really strengthening your own connection with your angels. So if you're interested in joining us, it's on my website, antucker.com/peace-bathing. I hope you'll come. It's an amazing program. We've been doing it for years now, and it just gets better and better. So, all right, if you are ready, take a breath, and let's go ahead and share the original channeling. Blessings. We are together once again. We have something important to speak about together. An important conversation which we are having. I wish to open your mind to something central to the core of what you are and to how you are developing. I wish now to lend a perspective which I can share on what you are going through, on how growth happens within humanity, and what you are reaching for with each coming breath. There is a tomorrow on the horizon which will be very different, which you have not yet seen. And there's still today, which you are mired in, which you are experiencing. And the two are not co-present. They are not existing in the same moment just yet. But there will come a time when they are co-present, when you may exist both in the now reality and in the future one, in the same place. This is part of how you are evolving. Humanity must share this space, the hallowed ground of Earth, between two partitions of itself, one mind of humanity, two concepts of reality, overlapping for the time being. This will create within humanity a rift of consciousness, a separation that gestates from within itself two derivative concepts of itself. The original concept of humanity, which is currently existing within the now reality and will continue to do so, this concept of self within humanity will become increasingly shattered within its own self-identity. It will become increasingly unable to relate within itself. The humans that exist in that state of being become increasingly contentious and have increasing difficulty with relating to each other because they are in the expression of separation. They are understanding what separation is. Separation has reached its terminal velocity, the moment of its own turning. And to continue onward on that path creates a vibration of increasing distrust of self and other. For humanity that successfully shifts away from the old method of reality into the new state of consciousness, there will be a new consciousness of self. There will be a new understanding of self, which is gathering itself increasingly into a unified state of self-comprehension. These two states of being and two overlapping realities shall be co-present for a period of time, as the earth herself is moving through her own gestational field. You shall find yourselves in a common existence, but with uncommon experiences of that existence. What this might feel like and look like will be that as someone who has moved into a new state of consciousness, you might find yourself moving with greater ease, greater freedom, with less fear, less anxiety. And you might also see others who are increasingly at odds with how their life is forming and what is forming around them. There will be this sense of increasing contentiousness, greater dialogues of friction rather than freedom happening within the fading reality as it begins to unravel. The process of unraveling is not hurried, and the movement into the new state of consciousness is not rapid. As I said, these two shall overlap. And I would encourage yourselves, as you are in the process of voyaging into the new state, that you make space for those who need it, who must be allowed their journey of unraveling. Allow that which must understand itself through increasingly digressive iterations. Let it be. Let those you love that are still not reconciled to this change have their time to become reconciled. Let them have their moments of disconcerting puzzling over what is happening. Do not feel the need to guide or correct or to change them. Let them be in peace. The consciousness of their own hearts must decide which path they shall follow. And should they choose to evolve, they shall. If they choose not to evolve, that is all right. They will remain as they are and will continue on in their life until the natural ending of that life, at which time they shall not reincarnate here. The earth herself is going through this change. There are many obstacles which have already been overcome in the process of this gradual shifting. And there are some that yet remain. Humanity's great gesture of ascension will come as it accepts itself completely, as it moves into the space of self-recognition, as beings who can change the world, as beings who can stretch themselves and expand themselves wherever they might want to. When this finally comes into the consciousness of the human will have digested all that was needed from the previous state of being. There will be this movement that occurs within yourselves as the evolution becomes increasingly concrete and as your new reality becomes increasingly felt. This does not mean that those who you love will be lost to you. It does not mean that the old world will be gone. It does mean, however, that you may find yourselves increasingly drawn into separation from that which was and drawn toward that which is now blossoming. There will be those among you who continue to offer the light of your new circumstances to those that want it. There will be for many, many years the potential available to shift for anyone who needs it. There is no hurry. There is no need or desire to shift more quickly than is in the highest and best interest of each individual person. Thus, I would say it is most important not to be in judgment of another person's journey, not to wish for them something that you wish for your own self. This is, in fact, diametrically opposed to the new consciousness, which must allow all other beings to exist and to have their own existence as they choose it. Thus, I would say, as you are preparing yourselves increasingly for the vibrations of change that are increasing with every day, I would encourage yourselves to resist the need to be apart and resist the need to be together. Do not change anyone else's trajectory according to your own wishes. Let them be as they are and trust in the unfolding as it comes. You do not need to leave behind the ones you love, although in moments you may choose to, and you may find yourself feeling differently about the world around you. You may wish to evolve in new ways. There will be opportunities for you in the new beginnings to have community beyond the physical, and in the earliest instantiations of finding one another in the highest vibration. These occurrences may grow increasingly as occurrences of the heart and the mind, telepathic meetings, telepathic communication that creates cohesion within the new reality. This may all happen while you are existing within the current framework of your existing lives. Thus, I wish to reassure you, you do not need to leave behind your loved ones. They will come or they will not. The most important guidance I can give you is not to judge their choices and to allow them the path that they are on, to offer the help, the perspective, the sharing of light. And this is your guidance, to be the light that they are in, to share the glory of what you found simply by being, and to offer a truce to who they are and to what they are learning, to gift them the power of your own witnessing, and to be the observer of their change, to reflect back to them what has moved within them so that they might embrace it more easily. Gift them your own evolution. Be the light in order to share the light, but do not force the light on anyone. This would be my greatest referral and my deepest wish for you as you are moving into these changes. My concern may be that the power of your own loving presence could guide you into controlling behavior regarding the ones that you love, choosing for them, dictating for them what their choices should be. And this polarization will pull you away from the very shift that you are seeking. Therefore, peace with all that is what you are seeking. Loving all that you are and all that is with equanimity, giving and receiving, understanding that all states of consciousness have gifts to offer, and that even in the state where you have received the light that is promised and others have not, they may still have teachings to share. I say bless you and thank you. Goodbye. So beautiful message. Yeah, beautiful message. And I think a really powerful message, a reminder. Like, I think we all know this. Like, if we were to meet together and we'd be talking about it, like, you would say this. It would be like, oh yeah, of course, I'm going to feel this way. But I think it's different when we're facing a person we love. That when we have that cinch inside of us, it's like, well, I sure hope that they feel this way, or that they, or if we get into a conversation about it and we're trying to persuade them, and like, in the moment, do we remember this? Like, do we always truly remember this? Are we really willing to let the people that we love fall down? And that's the hard thing. I love that she's not saying that we have to just do nothing. She's saying that we just have to do something that feels like doing nothing, which is just being. But being is hard. Like, being takes work. It takes work to be because you have to actively focus on getting out of the way in order to be effectively. Like, most of the time we're so focused on doing that we forget to just be. And when we're in our doing state, we are rarely pulling on the fullness of who we are. Like, we are mostly, when we're in that doing state, we are projecting stuff, projecting ideas, projecting judgments, projecting, right? So when we finally step aside from that and we step into being, there's almost a magnetism that it's like we connect. It's like if you have two magnets and you put them together in the correct way and they just pull together all of a sudden. That's what it feels like when we finally slip into the state of being. It's like your body connects, like a magnet connecting two magnets together. Their body connects to your source energy, and boom, there it is. And then that energy can flow through you and it starts to affect others. So that's what's the state we want to be in. And that's the most loving that we can be. Like, the best thing that we can do for others is to be in that state. And it's so counterintuitive, right? It's so, because we are so taught that the thing that we're meant to do is do. That it's like, if you disagree with something in the world, go fight it. How can you stand on the sidelines? And, if you're doing nothing, you're making a choice. It's like all this stuff, like, we hear that it's like, that you have to do. And how can you just let that person suffer? And how can you, well, okay, I understand that the doing is so much less powerful than the being. And who cares if nobody else gets it? Like, if they see you standing there glowing and they're like, yeah, but you're not actively on the march. And you're like, no, I'm glowing. Like, check me. I'm doing it. I'm being. And maybe they don't get it, but who cares? Right? You feel it. And maybe they'll feel it too. So, okay, you guys, let's go ahead and break it down. Are you ready? Let's do it. So, okay, so first paragraph, She says, blessings, we are together once again. I have something important to speak about, or we have something important to speak about together, an important conversation which we are having. I wish to open your mind to something central to the core of what you are and how you are developing. I wish now to lend a perspective which I can share on what you are going through, on how growth happens within humanity and what you are reaching for with each coming breath. So what I like about this first paragraph, of course, she's queuing up the message, but it's about our process of evolution. So she's trying to explain to us that this is a predictable circumstance that we're heading into, just in the same way that if you were getting ready to create a child, you would have years are very predictable. It's going to take 9 months, and this is what it's going to look like. There's a predictable process that we're going through. And so she's giving us a little bit of an understanding that we're going to be at this incredibly important period of overlap in that process. It's almost like the preparing for birth. Next paragraph. There is a tomorrow on the horizon which will be very different, which you have not yet seen. And there is still today which you are mired in, which you are experiencing. And the two are not co-present. They are not existing in the same moment just yet. But there will come a time when they are co-present, when you may exist both in the now reality and in the future one in the same place. So this is really interesting to me because I know we often feel when we're out in the world that we are like, it's almost like, when you're having an amazing day and everything's going your way. And it's like you're just in the flow and it's like you're in such a good mood, and you could see someone who's having a terrible day and you recognize like that person is having a different experience of reality. So we see the divergence already. We witness it in our current lives. So if we can look at that and say, okay, two very, very different experiences of reality, and yet we are still in the same reality. What that tells me is that what we're heading into is significantly wider of a gap. So that's kind of hard to wrap your head around. Like if you can imagine you on your best day when everything is just like flowing and you're high as a kite, and then you're like drive by someone and they're like having a miserable experience, and that's big, but then it's going to be bigger. So hard to even wrap our heads around that. And I think in order for that to happen, it means we go higher and they go lower. And that's, I think that's part of the reason we're getting this message right now is that what do we do if our loved ones are in that bracket and they go lower, right? And it's one thing, you can look at my loved ones and be like, oh, well, I'm fine with it. And of course, I'm going to support them and they're on their journey and I'm not going to try to fix them. Why is she sharing this message with us right now, right? Like, why is there an urgency to this message? Because what if they get worse? Like, what if it becomes harder for us to keep our hands off and to not try to fix them? Because of the fact that we see them really struggling. That, I think, is why we're being given the message now. So because of the fact that we need to be preparing ourselves for this idea that there's going to be an increasing divergence. And we need to understand that if we are not fixing, it doesn't mean we're not loving. That the strongest way we can help is by being, not by doing, right? She's not telling us to not care or to be dispassionate or to give up on them at all. She's saying the doing is not the thing. The doing actually pulls you away from your journey. If we do, all it does is you sink with them, right? So she's saying what we have to do is not do. We have to try to remember in that moment this message. And remember, okay, my heart hurts, right? My loved one is struggling. I see them going down a path that I know doesn't end well, and it hurts me. I'm sad. What do? I'm gonna just bring in my love, and I'm just gonna be that light as hard as I can, and I'm just gonna be in their life, and I'm gonna witness their experience, and I'm going to try to reflect every little moment of growth. I'm going to reflect it back to them. Every tiny little bit where I see a glimmer of their progression, I'm going to reflect that back to them. And that's the role, right? That's what we can do. But it won't be, if this happens and if we see this around us, it will be easy for us to forget ourselves. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I think that's why this is so important. So she's, there'll be a time when they are co-present, when you may exist both in the now reality and in the future one in the same place. Next paragraph, she says, this is part of how you are evolving. Humanity must share this space, the hallowed ground of earth, between two partitions of itself, one mind of humanity, two concepts of reality overlapping for the time being. This will create within humanity a rift of consciousness, a separation that gestates from within itself two derivative concepts of itself. So, I think the language is like, this is not a gentle, this is why I say it's going to be much bigger than what we see today. It's a true rift. So the idea of a rift, if you think about a rift in the earth, then it's not like a little crack. A crack you can walk across easy. A rift you cannot walk across. And a thing about being in a high spiritual perspective is that when your vibration is high, you have the ability to go down. Like you can go and visit down, but people at a lower vibration cannot visit up because they don't have the capacity. So when you are up here, say that you have a loved one and your vibration is here and theirs is here, you can bring your spiritual perspective into their world, but they may not understand you, and they may not understand why you are not doing the things they want you to do. Right? They may not understand why you're responding the way that you're responding. And so that's a possibility, because they will not have the capacity to stretch up at all. Right? And there's a rift, there's a separation. So what has to happen is they have to grow their way across. They have to cross the bridge themselves, just like you did. So that is something for us to be aware of as we go through this. That it's a true rift, and that separation is something that a person of a higher vibration can bridge. Someone of a lower vibration cannot, other than by growing their capacity. So it just helps, I think, in terms of understanding how it helps us, I think, to better understand what their response might be in that moment, or why they might feel the way they do. Is because they don't have the ability to see things from your perspective. So you may try to explain, don't run down to Walmart and freak out because there's a shortage or there's rationing, and, don't go do, because you're going to be in a bad vibe. And they'll be like, but how can you feel that way? How can you trust like that? They might not understand you. And so all you got to do in that moment is just shine your light. Just be solid in yourself. And try, if they feel like they got to go do it, then you just send love, just send love. And I'm just using that as an example of like, yeah, because in general, we want to try to stay out of environments that are going to be super chaotic like that. So next paragraph, the original concept of humanity, which is currently existing within the now reality and will continue to do so. So this is like the old way. This concept of self within humanity will become increasingly shattered within its own self-identity. It will become increasingly unable to relate within itself. The humans that exist in that state of being become increasingly contentious and have increasing difficulty with relating to each other because they are in the expression of separation. They are understanding what separation is. So that's what I'm saying, is they won't be the same. So as we're kind of having the divide increases, if you have a loved one who has not yet made the shift, they may find that it's like we are the frogs in the boiling pot. It's like the world is getting increasingly crazy. They may be deeply experiencing that crazy in their lives. They may find that they have more arguments with their friends, that they have more, that they have more traffic jams on the freeway, that there's more people honking at them, that they're just in a place of increasing contentiousness. So it exacerbates. So it's not going to get prettier, is the idea. Separation has reached its terminal velocity, the moment of its own turning. And to continue onward on that path creates a vibration of increasing distrust of self and other. I super highlighted this. So this is the key, right? And this is the pathway for them to find their way forward if they choose to do so, is that the biggest thing we are trying to embody right now is learning to trust ourselves, right? Learning to allow all parts of ourselves to exist. And that allowing us to exist, allowing ourselves to be, creates coherence in our energy field, which creates the connection to source, which helps us to move into the higher frequency. So it's really about self-love, self-trust, that allowing that trust that whatever part is inside of us is okay. And that as they move past this rift, they go increasingly into separating. They're separating from each other even further, and experiencing more and more contentiousness in the world. They are also separating from themselves increasingly, right? And so if a soul was to follow this process of distrust to its end, a soul would disintegrate. They would no longer be a soul. And I'm not saying that's going to happen to your loved ones. I'm saying at past, if they were beyond this incarnation, it's not going to happen to someone who's incarnated. But someone who it's like that separation is like moving further and further and further away from the sun. And if you move too far away from the sun, you are no longer receiving the light of that's going to sustain you. So it's separation, separation, separation. And coherence is what holds us together, right? You have to have enough coherence as a soul to have existence. And if we become increasingly not self-trusting, that coherence fades, and we get to a point where it's almost like you don't have enough gravity to hold the parts of a soul together. So can a soul disintegrate? Yeah. If a soul becomes increasingly not trusting of itself, and it doesn't happen often. I asked Isla, and she's like, it happened a little bit, not very much. It has not happened often. It's very uncommon. But just to explain, for the purpose of just for us to help to visualize what separation for a soul, what distrust feels like, is that it's pulling you away from self. And that pulling away from self is pulling away from spirit, pulling away from the sun, pulling away from everything. So the pathway back, right, is learning to trust the self. It's learning to come increasingly into allowing yourself to exist, allowing all the parts of yourself, trusting that you're going to be okay because you are an infinite creator, trusting that you can make good choices, trusting that you can stand up for yourself. You know, I remember for myself, like having been in, and I, as you guys know, I had in my astrological chart, I have Saturn and the moon are both in my 7th house of relationship. So it's like my mother wound and my father wound, and like all of my wounding was like, everything was like 7th house of relationship. So it was going to be my destiny in this life to work out all of my junk in my relationships. And thank God I'm done with that. I think, oh, like I'm past that garden. I'm like, oh my God, it was rough. But getting out of my second marriage, I did not trust myself, right? I had gotten myself into such difficult situations in my 2 marriages that at the end of that, I didn't date at all for like 4 years because I did not trust myself. I thought if I got back in another relationship, I felt like I would just become like, I would just get sucked back into the same pattern again. You know, I didn't feel like I had control over that in myself. And I had to take that time to understand, like, how did I get there in the first place? I had to bring it all forward and sit with those parts of myself and be like, what is that? Like, how did I get that? You know, it was rough. It was really rough. But I had to do that so that I could build the trust in myself. So this is the journey back for those who do, when this separation happens, how do they find their way back? It's almost like the environment where they might have been held in place because the environment is more balanced, the environment becomes less balanced. They can still do it though, right? There will still be that light on the planet. Guess who's going to hold the light? You will. So you can help them by shining the light. That light will help them to see these parts of themselves, to bring them forward so that they can come into greater and greater self-trust. And it's just a process of accepting themselves, you know, and learning about how these wounds were created in the first place. Yeah. So, for humanity, that whole concept of self-trust, I think, is just so important. Next paragraph, for humanity that successfully shifts away from the old method of reality into the new state of consciousness, there will be a new consciousness of self. There will be a new understanding of self, which is gathering itself increasingly into a unified state of self-comprehension. So this is sort of the opposite side of that. One is getting increasingly separated from yourself. The other side is becoming increasingly unified inside of yourself. These 2 states of being and overlapping realities shall be co-present for a period of time as the earth herself is moving through her own gestational field. You shall find yourselves in a common existence, but with uncommon experiences of that existence. So in this way, it'll be the same as it is right now, where we have lots of people at lots of different frequencies all experiencing the same earth. So it'll still be the same earth, but we will have that the degree to which our experiences of it are different will be more than it is now. Next paragraph. that what this might feel like and look like will be that as someone who has moved into a new state of consciousness, you might find yourself moving with greater ease, greater freedom, with less fear, less anxiety. And you might also see others who are increasingly at odds with how their life is forming and what is forming around them. There will be the sense of increasing contentiousness, greater dialogues of friction rather than freedom happening within the fading reality as it begins to unravel. So one of the things that really occurs to me as we think about what this will be like to live through it is like, imagine what they might feel like, this other person, if they are experiencing like their life is just becoming increasingly like, how did that happen? And why is it that I'm always under a black cloud and everything's always raining on me and we're right next to each other and you're not getting wet at all? Like, what? Like, how is that happening? But think about what they're going to say. They're going to be like, what is it that you have, right? How are you able to live your life with such ease and such freedom? That is not the same thing as you pushing something on them. That is them seeking the light, right? So that is part of the being. The beingness is just showing up and being yourself and being happy and being joyful and letting that be visible to others and letting them be curious and letting them stretch or reach for that in you. And maybe you can, if they ask, right? If they ask, there's nothing wrong with telling them. There's nothing wrong with to help when it's requested. Yeah. Next paragraph. The process of unraveling is not hurried, and the movement into the new state of consciousness is not rapid. As I said, these two shall overlap, and I'm grateful for that because it'll give us, we have time to figure this out. Like, we have time to adjust. It's not going to be like overnight, all of a sudden we can't relate to the people around us. It'll be like, it's like I think it's going to be faster than it's been, but still not overnight. And then she says, and I would encourage yourselves as you are in the process of voyaging into the new state that you make space for those who need it, who must be allowed their journey of unraveling. Allow that which must understand itself through increasingly digressive iterations, let it be. Next paragraph. Let those you love that are still not reconciled to this change have their time to become reconciled. Let them have their moments of disconcerting puzzling over what is happening. Do not feel the need to guide or correct or to change them. Let them be in peace. So that's pretty clear. So this is the biggest concern she has. Next paragraph, she says, the consciousness of their own hearts must decide which path they shall follow, and should they choose to evolve, they shall. If they choose not to evolve, that is all right. They will remain as they are and will continue on in their life until the natural ending of that life, at which time they shall not reincarnate here. So I want to add to that there will be, in the process of, we know there's going to be earth changes, there's going to be things happening. There will be some people who exit during these periods of transition. And that is not a bad thing, that if people exit during this time, they get an automatic upgrade. Like, it's actually like, as a soul who would choose to come in at this time, who knew that, hey, I'm going to leave during that big earth rift or whatever it is, that they are guaranteed, no matter what they did in their life, even if they like never got on board with their life, if they're one of those ones who pass in the process of this ascension, they get a free pass to the higher state of consciousness if they want it. So the angels have given us messages about this, which is really cool. And they are in this book, which I talk about almost every message because I'm always referring to it. And I'll see if I can find it in here. I'm sure there's a section in here about the fact that the angels said, what they specifically said is that when these events happen, that, say, for example, that there's a calamity, that if people are going to pass in that calamity, they will not feel pain. They will be taken from their bodies before any kind of pain happens, and they will automatically be given the shift of consciousness. So, and that's in here. Let's see if I can remember which section it's in. I don't know. I'd have to look at it. I'd look at it more carefully, but it's in here, I promise. And the book is that What's Coming Next, which is on Amazon. And it has all the messages from 2020 to 2024 about all the events of the shift. But specifically, it was like, when we worry about those people who happen to be in a place, if something happens, if that happens, those people are actually receiving an incredible gift. And it's a gift that, think about, that they may not have been able to achieve on their own. They could have incarnated who knows, many thousands of times, and they just could never quite overcome whatever was in the way. here is their chance, right, to all of a sudden shift into this incredible new higher state of consciousness. So if you were a soul, you would take that like hands down. You'd be like, I get a life and I get a guaranteed upgrade. Like, sign me up, you know? It's the no lose scenario. So, yeah. So that is something I want to add there because I think it's really important for us to know. I think it helps to make us feel more peace about it. Um, but that doesn't mean that everybody is. So if a soul crosses over at the end of their life, not every soul will choose to reincarnate on Earth. There will be some who decide that being in a karmic construct is a better way for them to grow. And there's no judgment in that. But if they choose that, they will go to a different planet. So we talk about that once in a while, but it's important to know that but it's all good, right? It's just a different pathway. The earth herself is going through this change. There are many obstacles which have already been overcome in the process of this gradual shifting, and there are some that yet remain. Humanity's great gesture of ascension will come as it accepts itself completely, which is humanity. As humanity accepts itself completely, as it moves into the space of self-recognition as beings who can change the world, as beings who can stretch themselves and expand themselves wherever they might want to. And then she says, when this finally comes into the consciousness of the human will have digested all that was needed from the previous state of being. There will be this movement that occurs within yourselves as the evolution becomes increasingly concrete and as your new reality becomes increasingly felt. So what's cool about this paragraph is that we often think about the healing that we have to do. And we think about what we have to overcome in order to be a more coherent soul, that we have to love all parts of ourselves and forgive all parts of ourselves and be okay, allow us to exist. But there's a really big difference between allowing yourself to exist and recognizing that you can do whatever you want and that you're a magnificent godlike creature. You know, like one is like, oh, okay, I'm not bad. The other one is like, I'm amazing, you know, and that's where we need to get. Like the pathway there is, yes, this concept of like accepting and loving yourself. But then once we reach that point where we say, okay, I'm good with all the parts of myself, then the next stretch is, wow, okay, I'm good with all parts of myself. And I'm an infinitely creative being who can create a universe. How about that one? You know, how about trying that on and sitting with that and seeing how that feels, coming from a place of total love and no ego because you've healed all your wounds, you know? So it's I love this paragraph because it says, yeah, this is where we're heading in the evolution of understanding in the next state of consciousness. Like the purpose of living in the new state of consciousness will change. The current reason for living is this idea of trying to explore ourselves and understand, to define ourselves. That's a current reason for living. This is who I am as a soul, right? This is how I am different from you and you are different from me. And this is what makes me me. And these are my lessons, my reasons, my abilities, my weakness, whatever, all the things. This is who I am. Once we get that defined, then we graduate, right? We become coherent. We can say, this is me. We're coherent. We can graduate to the next state of consciousness where all of a sudden we're no longer answering that question. We have a brand new question, which is learning to manifest from that place of coherence. How do we become the true expression of the divinity inside of us? So it is this paragraph, right? First part of the paragraph is approving and loving, accepting ourselves. Second part of the paragraph is becoming infinite creators. That's the new reality. So we don't have to do that immediately. Like the whole next phase of consciousness is going to be becoming that, is going to be learning to become the infinite creators that we are. But we can start out, you know, we can start playing with it. We have to start believing that it's possible and then learning to do it. So next paragraph, this does not mean that those you love will be lost to you. It does not mean that the old world will be gone. It does mean, however, that you may find yourselves increasingly drawn into separation from that which was and drawn toward that which is now blossoming. And so how many of you have felt in your life that you were called, like you made a choice and you don't even know really like how you made the decision. You just know it was the right choice to make. Where you were called, like it was like, oh, I this was the right whatever purchase. So you made a purchase and you're like, I just know this is the right one. And later you find out it was absolutely the right choice, but at the time you made the decision, like you didn't even realize you were being guided, right? You just did it, and then you find out later, I'm so glad I didn't take that flight and I took this one instead, or I'm so glad whatever it is, you know? For me, it was this house. Like I didn't even know all the reasons why this was the right house for me. I didn't even know that I had this like magnificent source of water on the property, and that I have, like a really robust power because all my power lines are underground. I didn't know any of that when I bought this place. And but I was guided to come here. And so this paragraph makes me think of that we will be drawn towards that which is now blossoming. That I think it will be almost unconsciously that we will find ourselves gravitating towards people, experiences, places that are of increasingly high vibration. That it won't even be something you have to think about. That it'll just be a natural occurrence. And once you get there, you'll be like, wow, like, how did I end up here? But it will just be, it's vibrational. Like things that attune in a frequency together find each other. So you'll just be naturally drawn. Next paragraph. There will be those among you who continue to offer the light of your new circumstances to those who want it. There will be for many, many years the potential available to shift for anyone who needs it. There is no hurry. There is no need or desire to shift more quickly than is in the highest and best interest of each individual person. So yes, healers will still be a thing for sure. And helping those who seek the help, right? Not because we're forcing it, but because they are looking at you and saying, how do I get what you have? And you're like, just come and hang out and be in my field of glory, be in my good vibes. And that's all you got to do, right? So that'll be, so that will be available for people who are looking for it. So, but there's no hurry, she's saying. It's not like there's going to be one flash of light and you have to catch it or you're out. It's the light will stay and live on inside of all of us. And so it will be continued to be available to everyone. And then she says, thus, I would say it is most important not to be in judgment of another person's journey, not to wish for them something that you wish for your own self. This is, in fact, diametrically opposed to the new consciousness, which must allow all other beings to exist and to have their own existence as they choose it. So this is really the money paragraph here. This is why she's bringing this up. She's like, hey, might be hard for you, but it is the key thing that you got to remember. And diametrically, it means like completely. It's like the opposite side of the diameter. Like you couldn't be more far apart, right? So if we are trying to force our ideas on someone else's journey, we will pull ourselves right out of that high frequency. So it's really important for us to be conscious of this. Thus, she said, I would say as you are preparing yourselves increasingly for the vibrations of change that are increasing with every day, I would encourage yourselves to resist the need to be apart and resist the need to be together. So it's interesting the way she said that. Resist the need to be apart and resist the need to be together. Do not change anyone else's trajectory according to your own wishes. Let them be as they are and trust in the unfolding as it comes. So I think what she means by that, resist the need to be apart and resist the need to be together. If you feel a need where I've got to have this person with me or I've got to be away from that person, you are, in a sense, projecting your will over that person's place of being, right? You're saying, I got to get away from that person. Well, it's one thing to just take yourself away, but it's another one to energetically push them away. Same thing with, they've got to have this person with me. Well, then you are influencing their trajectory. So we have to, that concept, whenever it's a need, right? All we got to do is be. We got to be in the flow and trust that you may be gravitated towards people who are in a similar vibe. Like it's that idea of relaxing into the experience of existing as opposed to trying to change what's happening around you or changing others. Let them be as they are and trust in the unfolding as it comes. Next paragraph, you do not need to leave behind the ones you love, although in moments you may choose to. And I love this next paragraph, you guys. You may find yourself feeling differently about the world around you. You may wish to evolve in new ways. There will be opportunities for you in the new beginnings, to have community beyond the physical. And in the earliest instantiations of finding one another in the highest vibration, these occurrences may grow increasingly as occurrences of the heart and mind. Telepathic meetings, telepathic communication that creates cohesion within the new reality. So exciting. So yes, to those of you that have watched the telepathy tapes where they meet on the hill, and it's like this non-physical place where their consciousness goes, and they have friends and they talk and they teach each other stuff, and amazing, amazing. And it's going to be like that. And I channeled about this in the book as well. As she confirmed, yeah, it's going to be like that. And so, and what I love about this is, what do you do if you are that lone lighthouse that's living out somewhere in the middle of nowhere and everyone around you is not into the woo, and you are the only person that you know that's into the woo? But you don't want to leave your loved ones. What do? You will be able to find the support that you need, the community that you need telepathically. The other thing I think will happen is that you will discover through this process of connecting telepathically that there are other people that are around you that are woo that you just haven't met yet. So you will be drawn together, right? You'll be brought together, which is so exciting. So they could be your new best friend, could be right around the corner and you don't even know it yet. Denise is like ready for all of us. She's excited. She wants us all to move next door. I love it. So, but yeah, so then she says, this may all happen while you are existing within the current framework of your existing lives. So I love that. So you don't necessarily, in the beginning, you can still find that community without leaving your home even. Thus, I wish to reassure you, you do not need to leave behind your loved ones. They will come or they will not. The most important guidance I can give you is not to judge their choices and to allow them the path that they are on. To offer the help, the perspective, the sharing of light. So this is how we're meant to help them, right? To share our light. And this is your guidance. To be the light that they are in. So this is huge, absolutely huge. It is literally the same model as the universe. Like, how does the universe sustain itself? Through solar energy. Like, it is our evolution, is our proximity to our sun. And so you become the sun, right? You become a person who holds that solar energy inside of you. And so all you got to do is shine your light and they will benefit, right? And you help them by doing that. And yeah, you help them unconsciously and consciously because they will feel the vibration. It makes it easier, giving them energy. Healing takes energy, and you're giving them that energy without even trying, just by radiating it. Then they're also seeing you and seeing that you are not under the dark cloud. And then their conscious mind can come along for the ride and they can say, how is it that it's not raining on you? So it's both, right? To be the light that they are in, to share the glory of what you found simply by being, and to offer a truce to who they are and to what they are learning, to gift them the power of your own witnessing, and to be the observer of their change, to reflect back to them what has moved within them so that they might embrace it more easily. So this is the spiritual perspective, is what she's referring to here. That as we go through the shift, we become increasingly able to connect to our spiritual perspective, which means that we are no longer caught up in the fray of the chaos, and we can see it from the outside. So when you see things from the outside, all of a sudden you see all the actors, you see why someone does what they do, and you will also become much more aware when they see it too. And so you can reflect that back to them and say, wow, I'm just observing how in the past you might have made this choice, but today you made a different choice. It's amazing. Like, I see you being brighter. I see you embracing this really cool new self-awareness. So, and that will be our spiritual, and the shift in our spiritual perspective is a big part of this shift for us. Yeah, very, very cool. So, and then next paragraph, gift them your own evolution. Be the light in order to share the light, but do not force the light on anyone. This would be my greatest referral and my deepest wish for you as you are moving into these changes. And so I think by referral, it's like she's recommending us as guides, as healers for the people in our lives, right? We would become that greatest referral, which is that just to be the light is all we need to be. The deepest wish for you as you are moving into these changes. And then finally, she says it as plain as she can. She says, my concern may be that the power of your own loving presence could guide you into controlling behavior regarding the ones that you love, choosing for them, dictating for them what their choices should be. And this polarization will pull you away from the very shift that you are seeking. So this is the danger of this period of time of overlap that we're going to be in. And it's going to be a process of trying our best to sit on our hands and to open our hearts. Like that's going to be the task for us. And to love and allow and recognize that every journey is worth living. Like every journey that people are having has a point, and we can support them in that journey by being and by witnessing and helping people to when they ask, right? Helping when they ask. Therefore, peace with all that is what you are seeking, loving all that you are and all that is with equanimity, giving and receiving, understanding that all states of consciousness have gifts to offer, and that even in the state where you have received the light that is promised and others have not, they may still have teachings to share. I bless you and thank you and say goodbye. So I love that. So I love at the end, she gives us that little twist that she says, not only are we respecting their journey because it's still teaching them, but we also respect their journey because it's still teaching us. So, which I think is just, yeah, so beautiful. So beautiful. So great message. And I do feel like I do love how we're guided. I love how we receive these messages before we need them and as gently as they can be given, that so that when things come down the pike, if they come down the pike, we have a sense of readiness about them, and we have a sense for like how we can actually be of service. So we're more likely to see ourselves, in those moments and recognize if we're not staying in our lane, if we're over helping. And I definitely resonate with this message myself, like I said, because I have been an over helper. I am a reformed, hopefully, mostly reformed over helper. And, but I have to be conscious. It's like anything. Like I think the way I think of our wounding is that it's like a river that we swim in, and that river has all kinds of debris in it. And then as we heal, we get the debris out of the river, but we're still in the same river. And so like, if you fall down, it's going to be in that river, right? So that would be, if I was going to fall backwards, that's where I would fall. I would fall back into wanting to help and wanting to save and wanting to keep them safe. And that would be where I'd fall down. So I just have to be conscious. That's my that's my Achilles heel. And be conscious of that in myself and be aware that when I do that, or if I do that, I am in fact judging their choices, and that is not okay. So yeah, it's just, I'm so psyched we got to talk this through because I feel so good about this message. I'm so good about it. All right. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's message. I love the message. I love that we are trusted with this kind of communication, to be given this in advance to kind of prepare us for how we might feel, knowing that our feelings come from a place of love, but knowing that it might be difficult, right, to deal with, understanding that we are coming from this dealing with this place of gap between where we are headed and where our loved ones might be headed, and then helping us to hopefully stay in our spiritual perspective, to stay in that place of being the light rather than trying to do the light. All right, you guys, have a beautiful rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you soon. See you next Friday live. Bye-bye.